They say karma has no deadline, but when it arrived at her doorstep, it wore my necklace. That single thought burned in my mind the night I saw her, smiling under golden lights, champagne glass in hand, the world at her feet. She looked radiant, no doubt about it. Her name was Alina. The internet adored her. She was the picture of youth, luxury, and success. And around her neck, glimmering proudly in every photo, was my necklace. It wasn't just a piece of jewelry. It was the necklace. The one Daniel, my husband, had given me on our 5th anniversary. The one he clasped around my neck as he whispered, "You'll always be my forever." Back then, I believed him. I believed in us. But forever, as it turns out, had an expiration date, and she was wearing it. The moment I saw her post, I froze. There it was, unmistakable. A delicate diamond pendant with a rare sapphire drop, the kind you don't just find in stores. My breath caught. My fingers trembled as I zoomed in, hoping, praying I was wrong. But I wasn't. The pattern, the stone, the engraving on the back, to my one and only. A bitter laugh escaped me. One and only, huh? My phone buzzed. Messages from friends, old colleagues, even relatives I hadn't heard from in months. Screenshots of her post filled my inbox. "Isn't that your necklace? Oh my God, look who's wearing it." She tagged him. "He's really with her." The words blurred together. I locked my phone and sat there in silence. My apartment felt emptier than ever, filled with the echoes of a life I no longer recognized. Alina. I remembered the first time I met her, sweet, polite, full of admiration. She was new at Daniel's company, fresh from university. She used to smile shyly at meetings, always eager to learn. I liked her, actually. I even mentored her once, helped her with her first presentation. She looked up to me, or at least, pretended to. "You have such elegance, Mrs. Bennett," she'd once said. "If I could have one thing from your wardrobe, it'd be that necklace." I laughed at the time. If only I'd known. When the affair started, everyone knew before I did. That's how these things go. The whispers come first, then the pitying glances, and finally, the silence. He started coming home later, smelling faintly of a perfume that wasn't mine. He smiled less, touched me less, and one night, he simply didn't come home at all. I didn't confront him. I didn't throw plates or scream. That's what people expected me to do, but I'd learned long ago that silence unnerves more than shouting ever could. Instead, I waited. I observed. And then, when I found her flaunting my necklace online, I didn't just see a betrayal. I saw a story unraveling itself. Weeks passed before I saw them in person. A charity gala, the same event where Daniel and I had met years ago. I almost didn't go. I told myself I was done with that world. But something inside me whispered, "Go. See for yourself." The ballroom glittered under chandeliers, laughter echoing off the walls. Every step I took felt heavier than the last. Eyes followed me, half surprise, half curiosity. They hadn't expected me to show up. I wasn't the woman people whispered about anymore. I was the ghost of a scandal that refused to die. And then I saw her. Alina, draped in emerald silk, her hand looped through Daniel's arm as if she owned him. And around her neck, my necklace, sparkling under the lights, mocking me with every reflection. For a moment, I couldn't move. My heart pounded in my chest, rage and disbelief twisting together until all that remained was cold composure. She saw me before he did. Her face paled, but only for a second, then she smiled, bold and confident, as if daring me to react. I didn't give her that satisfaction. I crossed the room, slow, deliberate. Conversations hushed around us. I stopped right in front of her, my eyes on the necklace. "Beautiful piece," I said calmly. "It looks familiar." Her smile trembled. Daniel shifted uncomfortably beside her. "Oh, this," she said, trying to sound casual. "It was a gift." I tilted my head, pretending to admire it. "I know. I was there when he bought it." Her lips parted. Daniel's eyes widened. A few nearby guests turned to stare, pretending not to listen but clearly hanging on every word. I didn't wait for their excuses. I simply smiled, nodded, and walked away. Behind me, I could feel their panic ripple through the air. But I wasn't there for drama. I had already moved on to something far more powerful, truth. You see, Daniel had always underestimated me. He thought I was fragile, emotional, dependent on him. But I'd built my own life long before him, and when he started to slip, I paid attention. I'd quietly gathered documents, financial reports, small inconsistencies that painted a larger picture. Missing funds, hidden transactions, purchases that lined up a little too perfectly with Alina's new wardrobe. The necklace wasn't a gift, it was proof. Proof of how deep his betrayal went. I didn't need revenge, I needed justice. So, I met with the board of his company. Calmly, professionally, I showed them everything, the missing invoices, the falsified reports, the evidence of embezzlement. They were stunned. Some even thanked me for bringing it forward. Within weeks, an internal investigation began. Rumors spread like wildfire, and before Daniel or Alina could spin their version of the story, the headlines spoke for themselves. CEO and assistant accused of financial misconduct. The empire they built on lies started crumbling overnight. The same online world that once worshipped Alina now turned vicious. Her photos vanished. Her followers disappeared. Her comments section filled with venom. The woman who once flaunted stolen diamonds now hid from flashing cameras. As for Daniel, he tried to call me, several times. I never answered. There was nothing left to say. The silence I gave him hurt more than any words ever could. I watched the news that night, sitting by my window with a cup of tea. Rain fell softly outside, and in the reflection of the glass, I saw myself, not broken, not bitter, but stronger. I'd lost everything once, my marriage, my pride, my faith in love. But somewhere along the line, I found something better, myself. The world thought I'd been defeated when my husband left me for someone younger. But the truth was, I didn't lose him, he lost me. And as for Alina, she didn't know it yet, but her story wasn't over. Because karma had only just begun its work. And when it finally came for her, it would come wearing that same necklace, the one that once symbolized love, later became a weapon of betrayal, and soon, a lesson she'd never forget. Because some things aren't meant to be stolen. Especially peace. Especially truth. Especially the heart of a woman who refuses to break. When she showed up at my door that night, drenched in rain and regret, the last thing I expected was to feel pity. But karma doesn't just punish, it teaches. And sometimes, it uses you as the lesson. I still remember the sound of that knock. Slow, hesitant, almost apologetic. The city was sleeping under heavy rain, and I had just finished closing my boutique. I wasn't expecting anyone. When I opened the door, I froze. There she was, Alina. Her once perfect curls clung to her face, mascara streaked down her cheeks, and her eyes, they weren't proud or defiant anymore. They were hollow. The same woman who used to shine on camera now looked like a ghost who had walked through her own ruin. Please, she whispered, her voice trembling. I need to talk to you. My first instinct was to shut the door. Every part of me screamed that she didn't deserve a second of my sympathy. This was the woman who'd smiled at me while wearing my necklace. The one who flaunted my pain for likes and admiration. But as I looked at her, standing helplessly in the rain, I couldn't bring myself to turn away. I stepped aside silently, motioning her to come in. She hesitated, then crossed the threshold, dripping water onto the wooden floor. I handed her a towel without saying a word. For a while, neither of us spoke. The only sound was the soft hum of the rain outside and the faint clink of her trembling hands against the cup I offered her. After what felt like forever, she finally broke the silence. He left me, she whispered. I said nothing. He took everything, she continued, voice cracking. My money, my apartment, my reputation. He even blamed me for what happened at the company. Her words fell like glass shattering on cold tile. I wanted to feel satisfaction, to say I told you so, but the truth was, all I felt was exhaustion. There was no victory in watching someone else's world collapse, not even when they once destroyed yours. I watched her closely. She looked smaller, fragile. Her hands were fidgeting with the hem of her sleeve, the same way they used to when she was nervous at company meetings. Why come to me? I finally asked. My tone was calm, but it carried the weight of every betrayal she had caused. Her lips quivered. Because, you're the only one who won't lie to me. I stared at her. That line, so simple, so raw, hit something deep inside me. She was right. I wouldn't lie. I didn't need to. The truth had already done its work. She told me everything that night. How Daniel had promised to marry her once the scandal died down. How he convinced her to move money under her name, saying it was for tax reasons. How, when the investigation hit, he vanished, leaving her to face the fallout alone. They froze my accounts, she said quietly. I can't even pay rent. For the first time since it all began, I saw her for what she really was, not a villain, but a woman who had believed a man's lies the same way I once had. We were different sides of the same story. I took a deep breath. You can stay for the night, I said softly. But that's all I can offer right now. Tears filled her eyes. Thank you, she whispered. I turned away before she could see the flicker of emotion on my face. That night, as I lay awake, I thought about everything that had happened. Life is strange, it brings back the very people who broke you, sometimes just to show how much you've grown. I could have thrown her out. I could have watched her suffer. But deep down, I knew revenge wouldn't heal me. Forgiveness might. The next morning, she was still there, sitting quietly at the kitchen table, hands wrapped around a cup of tea she hadn't touched. She looked lost. Do you have anywhere to go? I asked. She shook her head. I sighed. I can't offer much, but my boutique needs help. It's small work, organizing, handling clients. If you want, you can stay until you find your footing. Her eyes widened, disbelief washing over her face. You'd really do that? After everything? I'm not doing it for you, I replied calmly. I'm doing it because hate makes people small. I'm done being small. She nodded slowly, tears slipping down her cheeks. That was how it started. The first few weeks were awkward. Customers whispered when they saw her. Some even left rude comments online when they found out I'd hired the mistress. But I didn't care. Every day, I watched Alina change. She worked hard, harder than I expected. She arrived early, stayed late, never complained. The glitter that once surrounded her was gone, replaced by something humbler, realer. One afternoon, I caught her staring at a display of jewelry. My jewelry. Her fingers brushed the glass over a set of silver pendants I had designed recently. You always had good taste, I said quietly from behind her. She startled, then smiled sadly. I used to think jewelry was just about beauty, she murmured. Now I see, it's about meaning. I guess I never understood that before. There was something sincere in her tone that I hadn't heard before. I didn't reply, but in that silence, I felt something shift between us, an unspoken understanding. Months passed. News came that Daniel had been found overseas and arrested. Fraud, money laundering, headlines flooded every news outlet, dragging his name through the mud. For the first time in years, I felt free. Not because he'd fallen, but because I no longer cared. One evening, as the sun dipped behind the city, Alina walked into my office, holding a small velvet box. Her hands shook slightly as she placed it on my desk. What's this? I asked. She opened it. Inside lay the necklace. My necklace. The same one that had started everything. It was returned by the authorities, she said softly. They said it was part of the seized items. I wanted you to have it. I looked at her for a long time, then at the necklace. The diamonds still glimmered, but the light felt different now. Dimmer, calmer. I think it's finally where it belongs, she whispered. I smiled faintly. Keep it. Her eyes widened in shock. What? Keep it? I repeated. Because now, it's not a symbol of betrayal. It's a reminder that people can change. Even the ones who hurt us. She covered her mouth, tears streaming down her face. For the first time, I saw her smile, not the polished, camera-ready smile she used to wear, but something raw, human. That night, as I locked up the boutique, I paused by the window. The city lights flickered against the glass, and I saw my reflection, peaceful, unburdened. I realized something then. Karma hadn't punished her because of me. It had taught her through me. And in the process, it taught me too, that sometimes, forgiveness isn't weakness. It's the final step of reclaiming your power. People later called my story, graceful revenge. They said I'd handled betrayal with elegance. But that's not how I see it. It wasn't revenge. It was release. Because real strength isn't found in watching others fall. It's in standing tall when you could have chosen to hate. And as for Alina, she didn't just get what she deserved. She got what she needed, a chance to start over. And I finally got what I'd been waiting for all along. Peace.